TV party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else!
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated, yes.
To our favorite shows!
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hippo
Scary dog!
Pearson and Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Good evening. You are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast, TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, the mandated reporter, and frankly, I'm mortified, Mr. Mark Radulich, but you can call me Wheezy. Yep, we're back to that again. Tonight, our favorite show is The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, brought to you by the good people at Archie Comics, Warner Brothers Television, Belanti, hey Greg, move your head, Productions, Muckleman Productions, and Netflix. We've already reviewed the first two seasons. We're up to season 3, or part 3 as they call it. And joining me on this ongoing journey through the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina TV series is the one and only, from Honeysuckle Rose Creations, Alexis Hejna. How do you do, madam?
At this point, I'm starting to think a jaunt through hell would be better than being stuck in my house for another few weeks.
Well, we can switch. I can stay at home and make jewelry out of board games, and you can assess nutcases who may or may not have COVID-19 in central booking.
Do you have to stick the giant Q-tips up their nose?
No. I'm mental health. I don't touch people. Yuck.
Ah. Now, have you seen that chart where they show exactly how deep the Q-tip goes when they're actually checking if you have the virus?
No, but when before this particular flu, when the other flu was hot and bothered and infecting everybody, and
which
both
one? Swine, bird?
Just the good old fashioned seasonal flu.
Mm-hmm.
Earlier this year, both my kids got the flu, and when they tested my daughter for it, and she, they told her they had to stick a Q-tip up her nose, she had what might possibly be the best panic attack I've ever seen.
Impressive.
Yeah. This was hold her down, chair style, just like, my arms wrapped around her, crossed, to try to get her to stop moving.
Like you mean like how I have to hold my dog when I'm cutting his toenails?
Something like that. Yeah, it was a chair restraint. That's what I was going for.
I called that the canine version of the half Nelson.
Amazingly, like my son, he did it, and it sucked, but he did it, and he was fine. In addition to which, when my daughter lost a front tooth, like this thing was hanging on by the barest of threads, but and here's her logic. Clearly, a loose tooth will hurt coming out because it's a part of her body, and if a part of her body breaks, clearly it will hurt. I mean, I can see the logic, as dumb as it is. My son, on the other hand, just ripped his tooth right out.
See, I was just like your daughter when I was that age. I remember my mom, my dad, and my mother's oldest sister, my Aunt Ellen, who I am incredibly close to, having to come over and restrain me because I was screaming bloody murder that I didn't want them to take out my tooth, even though, it was like that thing was not going to last another night.
My goodness gracious. So,
I think your daughter may be like another version of me or something.
Terrific. Well, at least I'll know how to deal with her when she gets older then, since I'll have all this time, this quality time spending with you, talking about all the wonderful things on movies and television, like Sabrina, the Teenage Witch.
I know we also just reviewed the graphic novel, the first 6 chapters that are available also on our website. Plug.
5 chapters.
5 chapters. Wait, didn't we briefly talk about this? I could have sworn the 6th one was where they briefly talked about their the past of the familiars.
We may have mentioned it, but it was the first 5 chapters, and then the second iteration of the bound trade was 6, 7, and 8.
Okay. Then congratulations. My cabin fever is causing me to forget how to count.
There was some confusion because some of the trades are 1 through 6 and some of the trades are 1 through 5.
See, I got the occult edition, so it's all 8 chapters in a hardbound, complete with extra artwork and pictures from the TV series.
Well, that's very fancy.
Yeah, I didn't ask for it, but my comic book provider went above and beyond the Call of Duty for me on that one, and I appreciate it.
All right, so when we last left our titular hero, she had not ascended to the throne of hell. That went to Madam Satan. Lucifer was trapped in the body of, whoa, what's his nuts? Help me out here.
Nick Scratch.
Nick Scratch, yes. And he was now Madam Satan's little pet down in hell, where she was the queen. And they had vowed to go back to hell to go get him, which is where our story picks up.
We also have Father Blackwood, who's on the run after deciding to basically give the middle finger to Satan, because he is just that much of a misogynistic asshole. And poisoned a good chunk of the, and I say misogynistic because Lucifer basically said to Father Blackwood, yeah, Sabrina's my daughter, get over it. And Father Blackwood hates women so much he could not bear the thought of actually bowing down to Sabrina Spellman. So he took off, but not before poisoning like 2/3 of his students.
Right. So he is actually in pursuit, being pursued by Sabrina's cousin, whose name is Ambrose, yes. And one of the weird sisters, the head weird sister,
Prudence, who is also Father Blackwood's daughter.
Yes, biological daughter. The other 2 weird sisters were orphans and of no consequence, but she's mad as hell and not going to take it anymore, and she wants to see Father Blackwood dead. And Ambrose, now able to leave the area and go about his merry way after his misdeeds, joins her on a merry quest.
Yeah, he's still pretty pissed off at Blackwood for framing him for killing, what was it, like the Satan Pope? Or he got possessed by the familiar that Blackwood gave him, and he killed someone who I can't remember their title, but he was like really high up in the church at night.
Yeah, it was something like, I'm trying to see if it says here in his... Okay.
The anti-pope, that's it.
Yeah, forbidden from leading the Spellman home after being placed under house arrest by the Witch Council for attempting to blow up the Vatican.
We never actually get that story of why or how he attempted to blow up the Vatican.
I feel like we did to one degree or another, but it was like in season 1, so God knows I can't remember that far back. All right.
See, I would love to get a flashback episode talking about his time in Italy and how that came to pass, because that's not just something that happens. You attempt to. I've actually been to the Vatican, and it is so freaking big, and it's like I'm just also going to admit I would love that for an excuse for them to show some of the. Actually film around the Vatican, actually show some of the fountains and the buildings and everything, because, sweet God, the art history nerd in me loves the Vatican.
I would love to be on the wall as that's being negotiated for them to shoot on location at the Vatican for the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina.
Yeah, if they put up with Dan Brown's Angels and Demons there, they'll put up with anything.
All right, so our first 3 episodes here, we have the Hellbound Heart, which, again, picks up where we left off and gets us rolling with this particular season.
Nice little nod to Clive Barker there.
And then we have Drag Me to Hell, which deals with... so the first bit of this, we have Sabrina, who... Madam Satan does not hang on to her role in hell for very long. She's challenged by... the other demons, Beelzebub, etc. Who is the guy's name that comes along and challenges her?
Caliban,
yeah. Caliban is challenging her for the throne. And so, in a deal with the devil, as it were, Sabrina ascends to her role as the Queen of Hell, and Lilith becomes her
Regent.
her advisor, her regent. Yeah, and so this allows her to still be on the throne in Sabrina's stead, while Sabrina goes and deals with earthly things. But this is all revolving around getting Lucifer out of Nick Scratch, and this leads to this ends up being intertwined actually with the Father Blackwood story, where they in order for Nick to be saved, they need to get Lucifer into another body strong enough to hold him. So we shift over to Ambrose and Prudence, who are in New Orleans, and they meet a voodoo priestess who's helping them out.
Who's probably my new favorite character on the show.
Yeah, she's pretty cool.
One of my new favorites.
I think they end up in Scotland, which is where they finally corner him, and he's been in another dimension. His babies that were born last season are like halfway full grown, like they're like teenagers when we find them, and at the same time that they're like, well, we need a body, poof, Ambrose and Prudence show up with Father Blackwood. And
yeah, admittedly, tell me you laughed. I was like, wow, there's a contrivance. I mean, it works well for the story, but at the same time, it's like, you've got to be kidding me. Well, that would be perfect.
I wanted to give out the details and then let you jump in here with some of your thoughts, because there was a lot of, and here's the point. I wasn't sure when we left last season that this was going to be a whole season dedicated to saving Nick Scratch, or do what they did, which is settle this in like 2 episodes, which is basically what happened. They resolved that part of Nick's story pretty quickly, and then we were off and running with yet another dichotomy storyline overarching the whole season of what does Sabrina do when she has earthbound desires and things to do, and hellbound desires and things to do, and she has to deal with this duality. That's the big theme of this season, as it has been for the whole show. But point being, her bit of the beginning of this story demands she find a body. Poof, Ambrose and Prudence show up with Father Blackwood, having provided said body, and they pull Lucifer out of Nick Scratch and shove him into Father Blackwood and throw him in the dungeon. Yeah. First 3 episodes. What did you think?
I did love the design they did for Hell, which essentially turns into a very twisted version of Wizard of Oz. Still, that was really well done. I mean, I like the idea of the Tin Woodsman suddenly taking the faces of your loved ones to try to confuse you. I enjoyed it because it was very different from what we've seen of other versions of Hell, which is always underground and such. Mm-hmm. And part of me was wondering, did you guys do it like this because you really wanted to do something different, or did you do it like this because you ran out of money in the budget?
Look, television and film are visual mediums. I say that I feel like every other episode. And unless you want to do a version of Hell that is supposed to be torturous and that sort of thing, if you're not doing the burning flames of Hell bit, then you got to come up with something else. And so why can't Hell just be another dimension that has all kinds of weird fun stuff going on, like a beach full of rocks? Which, by the way, their first interaction with Caliban had me cracking up. Because he's just sort of, kind of flaky surfer boy thing going on. And then when he shows up in episode 3 to challenge her to find the unholy regalia, and they're like, "Oh, I thought you were cool, man." I got a kick out of all that.
See, when he first meets me, he doesn't say his name. I was convinced that he was going to be Sharon, the ferryman who guides the dead. So I thought he would become an ally, down the road, especially since he was the one who showed them how to get to the Red Blood Road. Again, the first episode is dripping with Wizard of Oz-isms. I loved the second episode where Sabrina is entrusted with taking souls to hell, because their first one is this elderly gentleman who it's clear that he made a mistake and he does not deserve this. He's tried to live a good life. They don't really say, but you get the idea that he probably sold his soul for love or to save someone. And she can see the goodness in him, so she sends him to heaven instead. And then she goes to get the second soul, and this jackass ice cream man apparently made a deal with Lucifer that he would sacrifice innocent souls in exchange for extensions, and he took that to mean little girls. So he's been killing and sacrificing little children, little girls, to get an extension. And I just love how he gets his comeuppance with that one dude who looks like the executioner from Prisoner of Azkaban coming up and behind him while Sabrina's eating an ice cream bar. That was great.
A child of the 80s, and certainly of the early days of MTV, I got a roaring kick out of Sabrina joining the cheerleader squad. And I think at some point they do Mickey, but the first thing, and we actually use this music in the source material, they did an entire cheer routine to Run DMC's "It's Tricky." I was big Run DMC fan growing up. I don't know if you knew the song at all. I adored that. I thought that was aesthetically, it's just sort of some bubblegum fun to have in the show that tends to be a little on the darker side. I was howling at that. I thought it was great.
You have no idea how tempted I was to actually start doing the "Hey Mickey, you're so fine" bit when you introduced me. But I figured if anyone's going to sing, it should be you.
Now you got me thinking of the Weird Al cover. Oh, Ricky.
Of course.
Hey, Ricky, you're so fun. You play your bongos all the time. Hey, Ricky. Are you familiar with the song?
Not as much. I hate to admit, I didn't get into Weird Al that much when I was younger. Mm-hmm. I just wasn't exposed to him that much, and the kids who did sing Weird Al when I was growing up were pretty weird, even by my standards. So I kind of growing up, I subconsciously just thought that anything that dealing with Weird Al was too weird even for my taste. And then I got a little older and actually listened to more of his stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, now I know exactly what's going on.
I feel like Weird Al is one of those cultural things where if you were aware of Weird Al in the heydays of like the 80s and the early 90s, you stayed a Weird Al fan whenever he released something new. But I don't know how many new Weird Al fans he's made that like weren't the children of Weird Al fans. I know
I'll tell you exactly where he's made new fans. From My Little Pony.
Sure.
Weird Al was one of the first celebrity guest voices to appear on Gen 4 as Cheese Sandwich, a party pony who shows up to challenge Pinkie Pie, and spoiler alert, they reveal in the epilogue that he and Pinkie actually get married and have a kid.
Didn't he also, or who's the voice of the dragon thing in My Little Pony? Because I thought it was him. Maybe I'm misremembering.
No, well, there is a dragon character, Spike, but he's just voiced by one of the main voice actors.
Not the little cute dragon, like the. It might not be a dragon, but it is some sort of horned thing. That's sort of a chaotic neutral character.
Discord! Yes, that's John Delancey. It's Q.
Okay. Okay. That makes more better sense.
Well, yeah, because Discord basically is Q. I mean, Lauren Faust actually admitted she wrote the character to be exactly like Q, and then they found out that John Delancey was up for doing the role, and she's like, oh my god, are you kidding me? And he actually became a huge fan of the show, insisted on being brought back, and became a big voice for the Brony fandom. So, rock on Delancey.
So Jimmy Platt, our ice cream vendor, is a right proper villain. He's so scummy. And the show, because of its nature, just because things are satanic does not make them bad. Just because things are angelic does not make them good. There's a lot of shades of gray. So when you have a character who's just delectably evil, as this guy is. I mean, the actor who plays him, a stellar job. Because, I mean, as we say in wrestling, mark your bingo cards, the heel's job is to make you hate them, to make you root for to make you root for the good guy to kick their ass. And like I said, because you have so many characters that just ride that line, like you don't always, for example, you don't always cheer against Madam Satan. There's a lot of things that she does to where she helps Sabrina, even when she's manipulating her. I mean, she works on a few different levels, so she's not purely a villain. This guy, purely a villain, and much needed for this show. Because sometimes I feel like, and I was thinking about this with some other stuff I've watched recently, October Faction. That's actually a really good example of this. Now, you haven't seen it, but one of the criticisms that Jesse and I talked about was it leaned too heavily on the teen drama and not enough on the supernatural or the fighting of ghosts and monsters and whatnot. And I think Sabrina does a better job, but there are times where I'm longing for villains for Sabrina to just defeat. I want to see her kill monsters and defeat bad guys, and I want to see her do stuff.
Yeah, I mean, we want our complex, multiple-layer villains. Mm-hmm. We want that we learn more about. I mean, even Father Blackwood, as purely despicable as he is a very interesting character. But that doesn't mean we don't want a couple of one-off villains,
right?
That we just want to see. It's kind of like the, it's like your standard, Monster of the Week style anime or fight show, like, I don't know, Power Rangers or something, Right. We want to learn more about the main villains, but that doesn't mean we don't want to see our main characters fight just some nameless baddies who we want to see them get taken down.
The early seasons of The Flash, there was a villain of the week, but there was also an overarching story dealing with Reverse Flash.
Yeah.
That's what I want for Sabrina. And so we get that with the Jimmy Platt character, which I thought was really, really good.
Yeah, and that was a really great episode. I also like this idea. That's what Sabrina says. She talks about how she wants to reform hell and the souls that go to it. She wants it to be saved for the truly dark. It kind of reminds me, I can't remember the name of the movie. There's this Nicolas Cage movie where he plays someone who escaped from hell. And you have, I think it's William Fichtner, who is a demon who's been sent after him. And they find out that there's this cult that worships Satan that's going to sacrifice a baby to it. And Fichtner's character goes, yeah, you know what Satan's like? He's quiet, he's well-read, and you know what he hates? Innocent babies getting sacrificed in his name. And that was actually always an interesting impression to me, because I thought I was like, yeah, what if Satan basically looks and says, I don't want an innocent soul. I want a soul that has proven it belongs down here. I want to corrupt souls. I want to see them twist and then, have to, come down here because they have led horrible lives. Well, you kind of look and you go, why would Lucifer want an innocent soul?
Well, not to go too far off on a tangent here, but if you think about the tenets of Judeo-Christian philosophy, if you're a good and decent person and you're able to get through life without being a raging asshole, you are rewarded with an afterlife of reward. You're rewarded with an afterlife of reward. It's a bit redundant. You go to heaven. You go to paradise. If you're a shitty person and you've spent most of your life being a raging asshole, you're punished for it in hell. It doesn't really work if you have a bunch of innocent people who didn't deserve to go to hell in hell.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So they wrap up our introduction, or they really set up the rest of the season in these first two episodes. They kind of tie everything up pretty well here. Episode 3.
We also get our MacGuffin egg.
Yes.
Yes, we get the creature from the Black Lagoon coming out of Loch Ness. Was that supposed to be the Loch Ness monster? I didn't quite get where they were going with there. I was just thinking, so Nessie looks like the thing from The Shape of Water, not a dinosaur. Good to know.
So chapter 3, we have Nick recovering from his trauma in hell by drinking.
As you do.
Yeah. You have Prince Caliban, who has challenged Sabrina, and this will take all season to deal with, to find the unholy regalia. So she has to go on a MacGuffin hunt times 3. And whoever gets 2 out of 3 becomes the ruler of hell. Terrific. So we have that. What was introduced in the previous episode was the carnival coming to town, which is a group of pagan... not pagan. A group of...
No, you were right. They're pagans.
Okay. Group of pagan sort of earth witches. This is where they draw their magic from. And they are the main villains of this season, as we'll find out. Sabrina, Nick, Rosalind, Harvey, Theo, and Robin visit this carnival that these pagan witches are putting on.
Oh, Robin is a new character who's been introduced. He's a new student at Baxter High who immediately takes a liking to Theo. They are like I'm just going to say it. They are officially the cutest couple I think we have seen on this show. They are freaking adorable together.
We also have a return of Mrs. Mary Wardwell. Okay, I thought she died. I thought she got eaten. I thought she was eaten by Madam Satan.
Yeah, but she resurrected her in the season 2 finale, and I do love that Lilith, Madam Satan, is still looking like her, and they're like, and the students or Sabrina's like, well, why do you still look like her if you brought Mary Wardwell back? And she goes, I got used to her face. I like it.
We didn't want to recast. We didn't want to recast this role.
Yeah, exactly. It's like translation. They didn't want to recast her.
Yeah. You're doing fine. You're doing fine. We'll write it in the story. It's fine. So, what we have here is a plot by the pagan witches to resurrect their god, the Green Man. This is what we find out in episode 3 here. Episode 4, and again, we'll kind of do these in pairs. Some of this I'm going to have to read because it's been like 2 weeks since I've seen this. Sabrina and her aunts find out that Lucifer has deprived the coven of its magical powers, but Aunt Hilda creates a ritual using the light of the hare moon to recharge its energies. Yes, this is the bit where it turns out, since Lucifer can give gifts, he can take them away. This particular group of witches who is praying to him is now losing their power. So you have disease starting to set in. You have the inability to control some of their magic. The coven in general is weakening. This actually is a part of a bigger plot involving the ants. Oh, gosh, who is the ant that isn't Hilda?
Zelda.
Zelda, since the end of season 2, is trying to hold the show together and getting no help from either Hilda or Sabrina. In many cases, she's being hindered.
Sabrina's got her own, crap to deal with, and
they end up working at cross purposes many times.
Yeah. Hilda is one of my favorite characters on the show because I love that she does want to hold the coven together. She is very loyal, but she wants to do what is right, and she has her own passions, her own goals. She is the potion maker. She's the one who always is making up all the food and everything. She's apparently like the greatest cook on the planet. I mean, seriously, I've been trying to hone my cooking skills while I've been stuck in isolation, and I'm still nowhere near as good as Hilda is supposed to be.
So we get the beginning of that whole thing. Harvey decides to investigate the carnival with Roz and Theo, but Roz is attacked by Hejna, who turns her to stone. In the forest, the members of the Church of Night encounter the pagan carnival folk. Ah, yes, the big picnic meetup that goes the look who's coming to dinner bit. That goes terribly bad. Dorcas is bitten by a snake. Aunt Hilda is cursed, but she keeps because she keeps spiders as pets. Outraged, the pagans leave the picnic. But when the witches try to make amends, they are attacked. The witches of the Church of Night return to the academy, but the pagans follow them and warn that they have 3 days to choose between praying to the pagan god or death. Desperate for help, the Spellmans decide to free Lucifer from the dungeon, but when Sabrina goes there, she discovers that Nick has already released him. So that's episodes 3 and 4. Oh, along the way, Sabrina tried to get the first of the unholy regalia, Herod's crown, and she is tricked out of it by Caliban, which is going to be an ongoing thing.
Really nice tie-in to Riverdale, though, because the ones who hid the crown were the Blossom family, who fans of the Archie comics and the show Riverdale know are one of the most prosperous families in Riverdale, and one of the main characters of the show is Cheryl Blossom. So, and I just thought that was so brilliant, having them be the ones who found the crown. Like, oh my god, of course it would be those fuckers. That was really great.
So, anything else about these 2 episodes here? What did you think of the whole hunt for Herod's crown, and then her losing it to Caliban?
Thought that was enjoyable. I'll admit I don't know as much about Christian mythology as I probably should. Just a little footnote here. I was raised in the Episcopal Church, but I left it several years ago. So I know the legends, but I don't know every little detail. But still, I thought that was a nice touch. I love the idea of whoever takes the crown, King Herod rises. It kind of reminds me of the that old urban tale, about the toe. Who's got my toe? It's like, who has my crown? I loved the interactions with the pagans. I laughed so hard, though, when Harvey sees... I think it's... Okay, we find out later she's a Gorgon. And, yeah, her name is Nagina. I don't know. I know they're playing off of a particular snake deity, because Harry Potter did the same thing with Nagini, the snake that follows around Voldemort. I mean, I guess if you're going with snake references, there's only so many you can get away with. Sure. And of course you have the witch who curses Hilda, whose name is Circe, which is an ode to
Egyptian god.
No, I think it's the Odyssey. Oh, yeah, it's the Odyssey. Circe was a witch that Odysseus came across, and she turned all of his men into pigs. That was one of her special talents, was transforming humans into animals.
It's actually a fairly well-written show when it comes to stuff like that. Like, the show is invested with a lot of references to classical literature, things of that nature, which is fun.
Well, hell, I mean, the character Robin, I actually looked this up. His last name was Goodfellow. You know where Robin Goodfellow comes from, right?
What?
Midsummer Night's Dream. That's the name of Puck in the classic Shakespeare play.
Oh, very good.
So, I didn't think he was going to be a hobgoblin. I just thought he was going to be like a trickster. But still.
I'm actually surprised when they went the pointy ear route, and I was like, oh, okay, he's an elf. And then I was like, oh, hobgoblin. And I'm like, huh. I think it's because in my mind, hobgoblin's an enemy of the Spider-Man.
See, I think hobgoblins, I think that terrible 80s film that got trashed by MST3K.
So, before we move forward here with episodes 5 and 6, let me ask you a question. Do you watch Riverdale?
I stopped after season 3 because I said, in what universe would everyone get that sucked into a D&D game?
Okay. I've never watched it.
I'm an avid D&D player. I am. I love D&D. But I know for a fact that not everyone would get sucked into the game like that.
I've never watched the show, so I don't know the reference, but that's mildly amusing. So I've never, as I said on the source material, I'm not really an Archie fan. For kitsch value, and things like that, I'll read some of these Archie crossover things because I enjoy a good fun crossover. But when I watch all of the DC comic CW shows, I'm not watching Riverdale. But I am curious, because I feel like Sabrina is actually one of the more well-written comic book adaptation shows that isn't, set for gritty... it's not The Walking Dead, as I've been told. Or the Marvel shows that were, in some cases, written at a higher level. But I am curious on your opinion on this, where Sabrina rates versus Riverdale.
Personally, I think Sabrina is a lot better than Riverdale, but I also put that towards the fact that Riverdale, is starting to come across a little bit more that, like, it's getting controlled by focus groups. We're getting more musical episodes, and we're getting more scenes of the characters singing. There's a whole bit where Veronica is apparently the owner of, it's like a speakeasy, I guess. And she also gets on stage and performs a lot of songs. And there's this whole bit where she performs all that jazz from Chicago. And I'm sort of going, okay, I don't really want to watch that. You know, I don't care. I mean,
if you'd wanted to watch Glee, you'd watch Glee.
Yeah, exactly. I think at one point I just nearly threw something at the screen when they said, "Hey, I thought we could do a karaoke song. How about that really depressing number from Donnie Darko?" I'm like, "Oh, you did not just call it that."
I'm assuming they were referring to Mad World by Gary Jules.
Yes, I love that song to pieces, as most people do, and I was like, you just called it that, you son of a bitch! Hell, they called Bittersweet Symphony that one song from Cruel Intentions.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Oh, that pissed me off so much. The Verve pipe was, or the Verves, yeah. That, oh my god, I listened to that album on repeat so freaking much in high school and college.
Yeah, again, you're several years younger than me, but I certainly remember Bittersweet Symphony being on the radio and it not being the song that made me want to drive into oncoming traffic. I enjoyed it as much as it was played on the radio. However, anything played by Sugar Ray around that time, I was teaching in L.A. Yes, I actually taught in the junior high that fed to the high school that was featured in the movie Stand and Deliver. A little bit of my fame and notoriety there. So for the brief period of time I was a junior high school teacher in East Los Angeles, every morning, literally, I commuted from Northridge, which is up in the valley where the big earthquake was, down into East LA. And I swear to God, I couldn't get away from this song. I would listen to like the rock and alternative station, and every morning was Every Morning by Sugar fucking Ray. And every time.
Oh my god! How long were you in the car? I worked in LA. I did one of my first internships out there. Mm-hmm. Those roads scared the crap out of me.
I know that at some point I was on Interstate 5. Yeah. Moving on.
Moving on before I have more traumatic experiences of why I had to stay in a hostel without air conditioning behind Grauman's Chinese Theater because I was too scared shitless to have to commute.
Fair enough. So we have Chapter 5, which is The Devil Within. Now this is the bit where we have the time travel episode, where she has to go back to around the time of the crucifixion to get Pontius Pilate's bowl. And her and Caliban are taken prisoner, and there's a whole series of manipulations where she's able to get the bowl, make a run for it, get to the time-traveling stone thingamajiggy, and and because Caliban had stolen the crown and left her for dead, she's like, you know what, fuck you and the horse you rode in on, and she makes a run for it, and she leaves him stranded, which brings up a very fun conversation between the two, because, and this is one of the things I like about the Sabrina show and the Sabrina character, is that her heart's always, generally speaking, in the right place. She is a righteous hero. However, she has these moments, and Caliban calls her out on it. She was like, you know, for all your righteous indignation, didn't you just leave me for dead? And she's like, well, fuck me, you're not wrong. You know? So that was great.
And I love that. She's like, how the hell did you get back here? I'm made of clay. I waited. We also have Ambrose and Prudence decide to use a stone circle to try to amplify their energy, and they call in a bunch of hedge witches. We get a couple of callbacks, and Marie LaFleur, the voodoo priestess, shows up.
Yes, we get the Avengers we get the Witch Avengers version.
Yeah, but apparently Agatha, one of the Weird Sisters, was driven insane by looking at Pan, who is the leader of the pagans, and she goes in and shatters one of the stones because she's all cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
Yep. I'll tell you, Season 3 with these shows, the first season always, by virtue of it being the first season and you're trying to get people invested in the show, tend to focus on whoever the titular star is, unless it's a wild ensemble type of thing, like, mark your bingo cards, like The Wire. But even The Wire, the first season mostly focuses on McNulty. It isn't until we get to seasons 3 and 4 where they figured out that there were other characters in this world that needed focus. In any case, similar track here with Sabrina, where where these other characters, which were either kind of background or supporting in a way to like the Weird Sisters are like the best example of this. You have Dorcas and Schmagegi,
Agatha.
Thank you. Who are kind of just there to lend presence. And this season, they're actually given shit to do, and you actually get to see the actresses act instead of just kind of as Alfred Hitchcock would call them, living scenery.
Yeah.
So one of the things I liked about this season was a lot more characters got to do more stuff. Got to be actors on a show instead of living scenery, and Agatha and Dorcas were good examples of that.
Mm-hmm. And the characters who have been developing don't get pushed to the side. We get some great developments with Sabrina's human friends, Harvey, Roz, and Theo. Really see them develop.
Remind me of something, because I don't rewatch previous seasons before I watch the new season. And even when we do these TV parties, I figure, we'll talk about it. It'll come out in conversation. I don't feel like I need to overload myself with detail. What was the story with Theo? I know this was a trans person, but was there some sort of, like, is Theo an actual biological boy now? Was magic involved? Refresh my memory.
No. There was that one episode where Theo stole a potion. It was revealed to be a dream sequence. She stole a potion from Hilda, and it gave her a boy's body so she could play sports better because she wasn't getting the respect from the other guys on the team. Right,
this was the basketball bit.
Yeah. But it's kind of hard to explain, but I don't think they're going for full female-to-male transition. I think the idea is that Theo, like their voice or their actor, is actually just gender blind or gender fluid, if you will. The actor who plays Theo has admitted there. Again, I don't know exactly what the term is. Again, guys, I swear to God, I am just mixing up my terms. So if I say anything wrong, I do apologize.
Alexis hates trans. Just remember that.
Didn't we go through this when we reviewed the last season of She-Ra?
Yes, you and I bumblefucking our way through trans language. Absolutely. Awkwardly trying to not insult people and doing a piss poor job of it. That's the charm of our show, ladies and gentlemen. We try hard. Anyway.
However, I'm not going to lie. I do like that Theo gets this love interest in Robin, but it doesn't turn into a big thing of, does he like me because I'm a boy or because I'm a girl? Or no, Robin just says flat out, it's like, I don't care what you identify as, I like you.
Yeah, which, I enjoyed Theo, that they gave Theo a lot of time this season. I enjoyed they gave Theo a love interest. I'm not going to lie, and, this might be my whatever showing, but I'm just trying to get behind the mechanics of it. Because if Robin has boy parts and Theo still has girl parts, I'm so confused, and I need a guide. I need instructions. It doesn't really matter, and I only bring it up because there is a scene where they do finally get together sexually, and I'm sorry, I couldn't help but wonder, how is this all working? Clearly, it worked fine for the characters because they went through it, but I was like, but who? I'm so old.
Yeah, in all fairness, they openly admit that part of the reason they're doing it, while they do obviously care for each other, the other part of it is that the pagans are looking for a virgin to sacrifice. So, it's like, lose your virginity, and it's like, we care for each other, and then you probably won't be killed.
Yeah, which is fine. I mean, like, in terms of writing through it and using it as a setup for something else, that's all well and good. I'm stuck on a lot of the mechanical stuff here. Not that it fucking matters. It's not like we suddenly shifted into hardcore pornography. But look, people respond to television differently. That was my reaction. It's like, good for Theo. How the fuck does any of this work? Well, it doesn't matter. I'm not there.
Yeah, I will fully admit, I don't know how it works either, but the show didn't focus on it. And I stand by it that Theo and Robin are an absolutely adorable couple.
Sure. It
doesn't hurt, and I'm just going to confess this. Robin looks so much like a guy that I had an uber crush on when I was younger. Didn't have green hair, but looks so much like him.
He had a Justin Long kind of a look, didn't he?
I was actually thinking, you've seen, oh my God, what was that Robin Williams movie where he's the poetry...
Dead Poet Society.
Yeah, the lead actor who in that movie who becomes an actor and plays Puck on stage. You know who I'm talking about? I thought he actually looked a lot like him.
Okay. To me, he looked like Justin Long, but...
I can see both.
So, that's The Devil Within. To ape Jesse Starcher here, I enjoy a good time travel episode. I thought they used it well.
I do like how Sabrina has to go through so much complication about it, and then Caliban, she's like, oh, there's a time stone over there, and she goes, oh, good, easy way back.
Terrific. Thanks, buddy.
Yeah. Again, great symbolism with Pontius Pilate's bowl, the idea that he washed his hands in there after condemning Jesus to die, aka he washed his hands of his blood.
I want to go into a tirade about... just going into a bit about Pontius Pilate trying to reason with Jesus being unreasonable. But nobody wants to hear my weird comedy.
If it makes you feel any better, my dad actually had to perform sort of a little, I guess you call it a one-act play in our church where he had to play Pontius Pilate. Mm-hmm. And I remember because I had to make cue cards for him, but my dad, he wears glasses, but he didn't want to wear them as Pontius, so I had to keep making the cue cards bigger and bigger. And I'm like, Dad, just wear your freaking glasses. And he's like, Pontius didn't wear glasses.
You got to be committed to the gimmick.
Yeah, but then I pointed out Pontius didn't wear a T-shirt underneath his toga either. I got grounded for that one.
I'm sure. All Damn Witches, Chapter 26. The head witches arrive at the academy and threaten the coven with death. But Zelda calms them and offers a home at the academy if they help defeat the pagans. Sabrina learns from her friends that Robin is a member of the pagans, and they plan to resurrect the Green Man. Caliban offers to help Javi and Theo turn Rosalind back to flesh, but unfortunately the pagan Nagana shatters Ros into pieces like you do. Oh, klutzy! Meanwhile in hell... Meanwhile, behind this innocent facade, Lilith...
Meanwhile in the Legion of Doom...
Yes. Receives a terrifying message from Lucifer and decides to hide at the house of Mary Wardle. Oh, God. How Three's Company was this? At the house of Mary Wardle, while back at the academy, the voodoo witch Mambo Marie befriends Aunt Zelda. By the way.
Yeah. Slight spoiler alert. Did you see that those two get it? Did you see that coming? Because I sure as hell didn't.
Have you been watching Batwoman?
Not yet.
Okay, well, I know, it's one of the few things that isn't canceled.
Or postponed at this point.
Right. So the intention is to review it sometime this summer, and boy, is everybody, all the women are making out on that show. Holy Jesus Christ. The CW, where women get it on and on and on with other women. So, did I see Mambo Marie... getting it on with Aunt Zelda? I didn't see it coming, but I mean, that seems the way we're lurching in television these days. All the women love all the women. It's mad women love out there, don't you understand, Alexis? Everybody on TV is gay. That's all you need to know.
Oh, we forgot to mention about Hilda going to see Cerberus using a glamour, because she now looks like a monster from a 1960s B film.
Yeah, she's turning slowly but surely into a spider, and she tries to go see her fiance, and it goes poorly because she is a spider.
Yeah. Side note, when Cerberus proposed to her at the carnival, that was so damn cute.
It was. I want good things for Hilda, and to not be a spider.
Yeah, no, she and Cerberus, this show really does know how to pick actors that have really good chemistry together.
Yeah, I have to say, like, my criticisms of this show might be sometimes it gets a little melodramatic, but that's kind of the nature of the show, so you're sort of criticizing it for being what it's supposed to be. But, I mean, the acting, the story, I'll tell you what, this season 3 has been my favorite season yet.
Oh,
I thought this moved very quickly. I really enjoyed the overall theme of it. We're just about to the end here. I want to get to the last 2 episodes here, but I have to say, like, of all the stories, like, now that they've kind of established Sabrina and all of her superpowers, seeing that, you know, bringing up new villains like the pagan witches and seeing Sabrina actually do stuff makes the show super fun.
I also like the idea of the pagans just because we can't keep having seasons where the villains, the bad guys, are other devil worshippers. You know, it would get way too old too fast. I love this idea that they're stretching it out on the idea that there are these other witches, these other religions, and they're basically saying, yeah, guess what? We're the right ones, not you.
Right, which totally tracks with human nature.
Oh, totally.
So Sabrina and her friends try to put Roz back together, but this both doesn't work. Sabrina convinces the head witches to lend her their powers so she can force the pagan Circe to free Rosalind and turn Harvey's jock friends back into humans. Lucifer tracks down Lilith at Mary's home, which was a very uncomfortable scene, and convinces her that Aunt Zelda was involved in Adam's disappearance. Oh, yeah. Aunt Zelda finds Hilda at the bookstore where Hilda asked to kill her, which was unnerving, by the way.
Very.
Because Zelda shoots Hilda, but then buries her in the cane pit, where she will be resurrected. Yeah, the way they shot that, literally, where Zelda shoots Hilda, I thought we were done with Hilda. I thought she was off the show. Like, they had me convinced that she was dead.
Yeah, it's very easy to forget about the cane pin. We haven't seen it in a while.
And then Zelda returns home, and hey, it's shot by Mary Wardle. So yeah, I was really convinced that Sabrina's aunts were done. They were off the show. I was shocked.
I wasn't sure if they were going to do away with them or not, but that was still very, very dark. Again, you really feel for Hilda. Not going to lie, earlier in the season when she starts turning into a spider and that scene where the web actually spits out of her mouth to get the cookie, I actually jumped back. That bit legit freaked me out. I was like, oh, holy shit.
Yeah, I have to say, for a show that like deals with the dark, it tends to be light and rather upbeat, and then the stuff with the ants at the end actually made me very tearful. I was very sad for them, and I was convinced they were done. Like, I thought they were being very bold and just killing off these 2 characters.
Yeah, we also get the bit where Caliban talks to Sabrina and says, "Okay, look, it's like you've got the bowl, I got the crown. I see an easy way around this. Marry me." And now admit, I actually thought that's how they were going to end the season, with those 2 marrying out of convenience.
Yeah. I was convinced that was going to be a thing, too. Now, chapter 27 here, the Judas Kiss, this is the bit where Sabrina finds Judas's coins, but she's once again, because she's a dope, tricked by Caliban, and he gets the coins. And this is where we get the alternate future, which I loved. Because, like, and this is once again the problem with streaming on Netflix. Because I remember the good old days where I would have seen the Caliban's march on the world and being defeated by the pagans, and them sacrificing Harvey to the Green Man, and everything is the shits, and everybody loses, and you having to wait a week to see how it was going to be resolved.
Yeah, no kidding.
And just that tension of, like, I used to say the longest point of the week for me was the minute after Raw ended, because I couldn't, it was the longest point in between when the next Raw was going to start. And I have long since done away with that idea. I don't give a shit about Monday Night Raw anymore. But this was one of those things where I almost wish, there was the season of The Flash that dealt with Savitar, where the big mystery was, well, who is Savitar? Like, I remember the show's on Tuesdays, and I couldn't, and we did a lot of Damn You Hollywoods that year on Tuesdays, and I remember telling Robert, I can't start recording until Flash is over. I gotta see what happens next. I gotta see who Savitar is.
Oh, yeah, I remember you saying that on a couple of our shows.
And that's how I felt at the end of episode 7. It's so bleak, that whole scene where Harvey's being sacrificed, and you're like, well, how the fuck are they going to get out of this?
Absolutely. I do like the little twist about Judas's coin. First of all, I love the idea for going down to see Judas in the deepest circle of hell. Anyone who's read Dante's Inferno knows that. Well, yeah, in the original poem, Judas, I believe it's Brutus, and I cannot remember who the third traitor is, are frozen in an eternal lake, and their heads are being eternally gnawed on by Satan himself. So basically, they are stuck in a frozen lake with their heads turning into a giant chew toy. But again, that was a really nice touch, and I freaking love that Judas's coins are in the coffin of Vlad the Impaler. That was great.
So yeah, this was that was a rough episode, and I couldn't wait to see what was going to happen next. But like I said, I almost wish I had to wait a week. But streaming, Netflix, moving right along.
By the way, I'm just going to say this: the scene where they kill Harvey and the Green Man starts forming, you see the weeds twisting. Oh my god, you haven't seen The Ruins, right?
No.
Yeah, it's a horror movie. I had a feeling. Oh my god, that's all I could think of was watching that. Like, yay.
I have to say, like I said, the show, for its subject matter, still keeps it's a show I could probably watch with my daughter, and even though she's a bit of a pansy, I would feel comfortable with some of the imagery and be like, it's fine. But I have to say, that end sequence there, and I go back to, Theo and Raj, tied up and screaming, and the weeds twisting around Harvey and all that. That was rough, man.
Mm-hmm.
That was deeply affecting. This is also the episode where Zelda gets all the answers and is led on a tour by Edward's ghost, and she figures out who they need to pray to, and then is woken up just in time to be killed again by Blackwood, like you do. All right, so we get to our glorious conclusion here. Sabrina is legend. And this is where we find out that Caliban tried to march on the pagans. It did not work. The pagans have taken over the earth, and everything is overgrown with evergreen. So they go on a bit of a MacGuffin hunt, and she time travels again, and this time she sees her former self and says, hey, listen, do this, not that this time, so that he doesn't win, and she's able to fix things, which ultimately leads to, they are able to then defeat the pagans. They drive them off. They kill a bunch of them. And so,
that was incredibly satisfying.
Yes. And so the whole thing is sort of resolved with there are now two Sabrinas living in time. You have the Sabrina who has lived through the end of the world and just wants to be a teenage girl. And then you have the Sabrina who has not lived through the end of the world, who is mighty fine with being the queen of hell. And so one Sabrina stays in hell and the other Sabrina goes back to the mortal realm. And I believe they resolve the issue with who they're going to pray to by becoming the Order of the Hecate. Is that how you pronounce that?
I always pronounce it Hecate, but I believe on the show they pronounce it Hecate. Hecate is essentially the idea of the goddess of the past, the present, and the future. Okay. The maiden, the mother, the crone.
So that solves the problem. How are they going to keep this coven going, and from where are they going to get their powers? And then finally, setting up our 4th season, possibly our last. Faustus, Agatha, Judas, and Judith release the being that was held in the Time Egg from the beginning of the season, creating a new threat for the witches and the mortals of Greendale. Deeply satisfying conclusion to Part 3. The best season yet. Looking forward to Season 4. I'll give you the final word.
And look out, Season 4. Looks like we're going all Lovecraftian.
I haven't the faintest clue what we're talking about. Explain.
The idea is that the creature, and they talk about releasing the older gods before that. I think we're going into I believe that we're looking at going all Cthulhu on our asses now.
Ooh, Robert Winfrey should be forewarned.
Oh, definitely. So, we do get a lot of wrap-ups with this. I'm glad that Robin is staying around as a character, that he wasn't just a one-off for the season. I love seeing them take down the pagans. The scene where Harvey goes in to kill the Gorgon. He's like, don't worry, I've seen Clash of the Titans. With the mirror shard. That was great.
Yep.
I am really intrigued to see where we're going to go with this, because, again, we're going all Lovecraftian. We're going interdimensional monsters. And Sabrina has just created a giant-ass time paradox. So, if Season 4 doesn't deal with something happening that's just going to completely rip apart the space-time continuum, then I give up.
We'll see. I mean, there were 2 Spocks in one of the Star Trek movies that were coexisting on the same timeline.
You know what? You try to actually explain time travel between the medias, you just end up with one hell of a headache.
I was thinking about Batwoman, and I was like, oh, well, we have two Beths, and I realized, oh, well, the one Beth is from another dimension, from an alternate, is from a parallel universe. And folks, you have to remember that parallel universes are not alternate timelines. They are 2 different things.
I mean, even though that scene where the 2 Sabrinas are talking, one of them goes, shouldn't we, meld into one another or something? and she's kind of like, I don't know. I don't know if that's how it happened. So, again, she has just broken every law known to physics to do this.
It's fine. The Avengers did it first.
I'm just also going to go ahead and say this. The way Sabrina was made up to look as Queen of Hell looked freaking ridiculous.
This is at least in some degree supposed to appeal to teenage or tween girls. And, girls like fancy dresses.
Yeah, but we don't like powdered wigs.
It's royalty, man. Come on, get with it.
Lilith didn't have to look like that while she was sitting on the throne.
Lilith is a zillion years old. It's different. They were clearly going for a Marie Antoinette look.
Either way, I'm really looking forward to Season 4. We have got so much set up. Really enjoying it. I'm happy where all the characters are. I'm glad Sabrina and Nick aren't a thing anymore, because they were really beyond adorable together with how much he loved her, but it became clear that he is way too vain to be willing to sacrifice, as much as he has for her.
Yeah, I actually, just a brief aside on him. I liked what they were attempting to do. They basically dealt with addiction and trauma with him, and so this is the very, very somber, serious episode of Fuller House, or that sort of thing. I don't know how well it was handled. to be honest.
Well, I think they were more going for PTSD. I mean, which personally not
they
relatable,
made him a
but
dick.
I know is incredibly relatable for thousands of people. So
Here's the thing. I get that they were going for PTSD, and I want that sort of thing to be addressed because I think mental health is still very stigmatized and marginalized, and it's obviously mental health is just more widespread than we like to admit. So I'm glad this is being dealt with. I think they made him too much of a dick. They made him too much of an unsympathetic character. And so, as an audience member, you're like, it might be the PTSD, but he's still a jerk. So I don't know how well that worked for me, at least.
I'll give you that. Again, he's not the be-all, end-all character, and as cute as he and Sabrina were, I am glad they're not together.
Yeah.
We're still hinting that Harvey and Sabrina are supposed to be together. We get that one episode where Caliban instructs Harvey to kiss Roz to free her from her spell, and it doesn't work. And he's like, well, it's like, I guess you don't really love her. And Harvey's like, well, what the hell do you mean I don't really love her? But we're all going, yeah, we all know what it means.
Right. Well, so part 1 debuted October 26, 2018. 2 premiered April 5th, 2019. And then this one showed up January 24th, 2020. Everything's in halted production right now. I don't even know if they were in the middle of working on it. So we probably won't see this again until the following January, I would imagine. I think we're done for this year with Sabrina.
I think we're done for this year with a lot of TV shows.
All right. Go ahead and do your plugs, and we'll head on out of here.
Well, my plugs are short and sweet because all my spring shows have been postponed. I don't get to leave the house till June at the earliest.
On the other hand, you get to record again with me in 2 nights.
Happy, happy, joy, joy.
Hey! It is an honor and a privilege. Just remember that.
If it was an honor and a privilege, then why am I not getting paid?
Because it's an honor and a privilege. It's not a monetary gain. What's wrong with you?
Okay, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. We're keeping everyone informed on our Twitter and Facebook pages about the schedule. Again, all of our spring shows have sadly either been canceled or postponed. We're talking with the other convention organizers. We're trying to get the schedule cleaned up as much as we can. So as soon as we get our new dates, we will let everyone know. In the meantime, our online stores are still open. You can always find us on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. Right before the virus outbreak, I was supposed to start meeting with shops in Kansas and Missouri to start talking to them about buying my stuff, and that got put on hold. But, hey, good news. Our 20% off sale is still going on both of our online stores, so go ahead and check them out. We're going to keep that going for at least another week. And as always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic.
All right, well, Alexis is, in fact, going to be recording with me again. But first, Jesse Starcher is still helping the good people of Ohio with their unemployment needs. So he will not be on the next Metal Hammer of Doom. But allegedly, Robert Winfrey is deigning to join me to talk about Ozzy Osbourne, Ordinary Man. And even if he doesn't, I will certainly be doing that. As I did with the Code Orange album Underneath. I recorded that solo, so it's the first time in many, many years I've recorded a solo podcast, which was an interesting experience. Thursday, the 26th of March, myself and Alexis Hejna will review the animated Superman Red Sun movie. Next week, we've got a TV party for BoJack Horseman, the entire series. Metal Hammer of Doom will be reviewing Heaven Shall Burn, the new album, and allegedly, assuming Pat is available, we'll be doing the next boxing chapter, Cassius Clay, the years before Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali. And And that'll wrap up this wonderful March that's happened for us. Believe it or not, folks, with everything that's been canceled, we still have stuff on the schedule. You know, still got 3 or 4 things per week, so we'll keep going, but it's not easy being sleazy.
At this point, we're pretty much just looking back through all of our other books and TV shows and saying, anyone want to talk about something?
Yeah, occasionally I throw something out there and, you know, I hear echoes. But every once in a while somebody wakes up and says, yeah, I'll talk about that. And as a matter of fact, at the end of April, myself and Alexis Hejna will be doing a TV party for His Dark Materials from HBO, and there'll be an on-trial for The Golden Compass with myself and Sean Comer. So that'll be fun. All right, in the meantime, this has been TV Party Tonight. Be well, be safe, and behave.
Hail Satan!